Mrs. Carnegie, your involvement today with us has come to an end. I'll be confiscating the remainder of your assets and transferring them to Mrs. Breedlove.
Thank you, Miss Lena. Where would we be without you to keep things square between us?
Mr. Davison, you have the floor.
How? How did it come to this?
Mr. Davison, you and I both knew before we began that one way or another, only one of us was going to come out on top. That's how it works. That's how it always works.
I know, I just don't understand. When Gambino over there was in the picture, my revenue streams were solid. And now my cash flows have dried up with the loss of Carnegie. I don't know what to do.
Out of options? I couldn't agree more. Because the way I see it, Davison, this is the end of the line.
No, there's always a way out.
Perhaps. But do you see what I see? I think you do. I can see it in your eyes. Because once you do what you know you must, you'll see what I already know. It's all mine.
We'll see about this.
What'd I tell you, Davison?
That's game. Miss Breedlove wins! Woo!
And that is a game that some people take way too seriously, like Don takes it way too seriously. It's a game that we love to play, and we've talked about games all month long. We've talked about things that encourage you, things that challenge you, but this games that we play on the board games is always to win, succeed, but we play these games of life as well. And we think we have these winning strategies of life that if I do these things, then I'm going to win at this game called life. First week we talked about operation. In the game of operation, we said, we need these new body parts, change those out, but what your heart comes down to that. Your heart may be hardened. Your heart may be challenged in many different ways. Maybe it's divided. Maybe your heart is shallow. Maybe your heart is broken. It says only God can give you a new heart, and he says he will. Second week, Nokomis talked about the game Words with Friends. And words sometimes can tear down, and challenged us that words that we use, maybe you're a good person, but you use some pretty vindictive, mean-spirited, cutting words. And when you use those are words from Satan. They're not from God. And the challenge is to think about the words that we use, because words can tear down. And instead of using words that curse people, we need to use words that bless people and cause creation to happen in their life and new things. And the challenge is watch the words that we use. Don't use words from the evil one. Use words from God. And last week, Throw Burritos, that fun game of expressing your anger, and it's just a great game of frustration, let out and beat up other people with it. But sometimes our words, again, and our words can be very destructive. Instead of being destructive in our anger, when the anger comes, can we find ways to be constructive and build up others? So today we got this game of Monopoly. Game of Monopoly, that's one big board, isn't it? So the game of Monopoly here is how we can accumulate more and more and more and more. The game first started back in 1904. It says it really helped people through the Depression period when they just have anything else to have that little bit of a feeling, I've got some control, I've got some money, even though it's all this paper play money. But the idea we could have this stuff and we can accumulate more and more, even if it's just the game. So it's been done. It's the most popular game of all times. It's sold more than any other game. Still rates as the top game out there. There's over 900 different versions of this game, and they've got everything from all different cities and nations, all made off of TV shows. There's even one for I Love Lucy, and you gotta have, if you have one, you have to have more of them. It seems like I heard people have a closet full of these things. They made after movies. They made after sports team, the different sports there are. They have all after cartoons and singing groups. There's even a Bibleopoly, which I think is just bizarre. So use off Bible stuff. And then, of course, they have off animals. They have ones on cats and dogs. There's even one called on My Little Pony. And there's a dinosaur one as well. So it's all, how can you sell more and more? They're pretty good about that. Of course, all the anniversary editions that have come out. But the game of Monopoly is one that can take a long time. Now, Don loves it because he likes to win. I don't, because it takes so long. I want to play a game and get done with it. Now, when I'm playing Jean, it usually doesn't last long because she beats and I lose. That's how it goes. But the longest game of Monopoly on record lasted 70 days. Yeah, I feel the same way. That's awful. But some people, you love the game, that's a go. So it goes on and on. But the goal of this game is to accumulate more. I'm going to buy more properties, and I'm going to put some houses on there, and I'm going to put some hotels, because when you land on there, I want to get more and more money from you. And of course, the end result is I want to accumulate more and more till I can monopolize the whole board and control it all. And we like the feeling of control, don't we? We like the feeling of getting ahead. We like the feeling of having more. I like the feeling of just, this is my area. And there's something fun about taking from somebody else and you having more than somebody else. We have this idea of what it means to succeed. We want to win the game, but we want to succeed in life. And what sometimes we're so attracted to this game of acquiring more because it fulfills what we truly desire in life. We want more stuff, and we want to control other people. They have this mindset that if I have more things, then I'm going to accomplish more, and when I win in life, then that's what's important. So if my paycheck is bigger than somebody else's, or if I have a better job in my image, or maybe I don't have the better job, but I can say, well, I work harder, and nobody else could do my job because what I do is so important. My house is bigger, my house is better, my car is faster, my bike is better, my house is cleaner than yours. Probably not, but we do all these. I want to be better than someone or another. If I could just have a little bit more. And we take this measure that's used in this game and we use it in life. We think if I can just have more, then it means I'm successful in life. What's sad is sometimes we believe this so much that we think if I don't have all this stuff, then my life isn't worthwhile. We get thinking if I get more, then my life is more valuable than yours. Trouble is that is not the teaching of God at all. Now, there's different there's tokens you carry around. I got a couple of them here on the stage. It's a big car. The car is fun because it's fast. You think get around the board faster, you can do more things. But we have this token of the car. And like for this morning to think about that is it's a measure. We do not measure success, but how often do we do it? By possessions. I think if I have more possessions, if I can just have the better car, if I could have more cars, if I could have more stuff, then my life is valuable because of the possessions that I have. But that's not the teaching of Jesus at all. So we're going to start out with Luke chapter 12 and listen to a teaching of Jesus on possessions. First of all, let me give the setting for this. Jesus is teaching, and he's giving some warnings to people. He's encouraging people in their life, how to live this life, that we're in this worldly life, how to follow God through all the struggles of life. And then along in verse 13, a guy interrupts him. He says, someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Now, this is just kind of out of the blue. Jesus isn't talking about money at all at this point. This guy's not paying attention. He's got a burr under his saddle. He's upset. He's frustrated. At this point, he says, "Hey, Jesus, you're someone important. Tell my brother to give me the money that I deserve." Jesus is a little frustrated with it. Verse 14, he replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge and an arbitrator between you?" Jesus is saying, that's not why I'm here. Aren't you listening to what I'm saying? I'm not here to divide up your little money or things that are going on to be your banker. And then Jesus said in verse 15, said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of," what's the word? Yeah, Jesus is saying, watch out for this greed. A man's life does not consist on the abundance of his what? His possessions. So your life means so much more than possessions. Here's the Messiah, the creator of the world, coming to earth to give us truths, and the guy listening to him is more worried about how much money he has and how much money his brother has. But that warning there, he says to be on your guard against all kinds of greed. That's, I want more, I've got to have more, I need enough. And then the abundance of life is not in your possessions. And this is what Jesus told a story to help them understand this. So this is the story Jesus told, verse 16. And he told him this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop, and he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with anyone who stores up for himself, things for himself, but is not rich toward God. It's a pretty strong teaching. Jesus is saying we go through life, we want more and more, we got to accumulate more stuff, and we get to the point where we say, I've done this, I've deserved this. And back in that day, building bigger barns was a sign of huge success. So it'd be like us getting a bigger house or a fancier car and dressing for success. And it was that image he wanted to make everybody know he had so much. He said, look at all I've got. Look what all I've acquired. And he said it was all about himself, his own pleasure. Now, Jesus is not saying that possessions are bad. Never in the Bible. We see wealthy people in the Bible that are commended because of their love for God and how they use their wealth for him. So having possessions is not bad, but the problem is this guy was all about himself. Those verses, he talks telling this story, 16 and 19, he uses the word I or my 11 times. It's all about himself. Nothing about God in his life or giving to others. One of the phrases we use around the church here is it's not about me. Because that goes so contrary to how we think so oftentimes. But this guy was all about himself. But his winning strategy in life was all about greed and having more. If he had more stuff, then he thought he would succeed. But Jesus says that losing strategy is greed. Put this greed in your life, you're going to lose. You're going to lose when it comes down to it. When all's said and done, when it's all over with, this man lost and God called him a fool. What man had was not enough. He needed more. He had to acquire more possessions, and he looked only to himself to acquire them. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10 says this. Would you read this aloud with me? Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. See this verse lived out? We want more money, no matter how much you got. You need a little bit more. I need a little bit more wealth. I've got to have accomplishment more. And Solomon, when he wrote this, said, we go after all these things. We chase after these dreams. When it comes down to it, it's meaningless. It's empty. Because when it's all done and over with, it is gone. See if you know who this is in this story. All he ever wanted was more. He wanted more money, so he took what he had inherited wealth and he built millions of dollars in assets. He wanted more fame, so he went into Hollywood and became a filmmaker and a star. He wanted sensual pleasure, and so he paid huge sums of money to indulge in his every sexual urge. He wanted more thrills, so he designed, built, and piloted the fastest aircraft in the world. He wanted more property. So he bought property, masses of land in several states and in different countries. And in fact, he became the largest landowner in the state of Nevada. And of course, he had to have a casino as well. He wanted more power, so he dealt political favors and became very closely connected to 2 U.S. presidents. And all he ever wanted was more. He was absolutely convinced that more would bring him true satisfaction. Unfortunately, history shows otherwise. When this man died, he was a recluse, emaciated, fingernails and grotesque inches-long corkscrews, rotting black teeth, tumors, innumerable needle marks up his arms from drug addiction. Who's this talking about? Howard Hughes. He died believing the myth of more. If I could just have more. So the question, if he could just make one more deal, would have brought satisfaction. If he could have just made another $1 million, if he could experience one more thrill, would it have been enough? Now let's say Jean and I, we come up with a decision that she can go to the mall and take the new credit card we got, which has unlimited capabilities. She could buy whatever she wanted to. And if Jean would go to the mall and she just went store to door, spent the entire day, bought everything she could possibly want. Bought every dress, every pair of shoes, everything that she wanted for the house. And then she saw the toy store and she bought everything she could possibly buy for our grandkids, which I think could be a whole lot. She bought everything that there was. Would it be enough? Well, that's something we will never know. It ain't gonna happen. But we're told over and over by marketing and by advertisements and by commercials, and it really teaches us what you have is not enough, and you should be not content with what you have. That car that you have, it's not good enough. You need this one. It teaches over and over, you shouldn't be content with this, you shouldn't be content with it, because if you buy one more thing, if you get one more purchase, if you get one more drink, if you get one more bonus, if you could just get one more thrill in your life, then this one more will be what you want, but it's never enough. Our whole society is built on this. Don't be content, and you need more. So who is more content? The man with $1 million or the person that has 12 kids? The correct answer is the person with 12 kids, because they don't want any more. Now, I love kids. Don't write me letters on that. I'm just making a joke here. But sometimes, no matter how much we have in stuff and possessions, we want more. Gustavo, who's our campus pastor at Troy, sent me this, and I appreciate it. It says, if I am the owner of my possessions, then acquiring more and using them is all about me. But if God is the owner of my possessions, then acquiring more becomes about God, and using them is for Him and for others. So we can check our attitude. The stuff that I have, what I want more, is it for me or is it for God? This whole game of Monopoly is about acquiring more, possessing more, and controlling more, and that is the opposite of Jesus' teachings. Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 6. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now again, he doesn't ever say wealth and possessions are bad. But he said, if all the stuff you have, you're storing is up is for here on earth, and this is everything that you're looking for, he said, your heart belongs in the world and it does not belong to God. When the game is done, when this game of Monopoly is done, what happens to it? It all goes back in the box, doesn't it? At some point, your life will end just like this rich fool's life. When your life is done, all your stuff, all those accumulated things will go to somebody else, and it's all done and over with. And what remains for you? Have you built up treasures in heaven? And you do that by investing, how you give, how you share, how you live for others, realize all you have belongs to God, or is it all about yourself? Now there's another one of the tokens is the big hat, and the hat's kind of fun, and we don't wear hats like that anymore, but the hat is, man, that is the style, that's fashionable, that's someone with a great personal image, and success in life is not measured by a personal image. It's so much more than that. It's so much more than your look and your desire for people to appreciate you and give you great value. We think if I could just look a little bit better, and so we spend so much money on our looks. We'll paint it, we'll tuck it, we'll do all kinds of things to our face. We'll go to great lengths to build out our body, to make it look good and exercise and all those things. And there's nothing wrong with taking care of what God's given us. We come to the point where we think, I can be better and I can defy all the things around me in age, and I can be better than, and my personal image becomes something that actually takes us away from God. 1 Corinthians 13 is called the love chapter of the Bible. And it describes God's love, but before it gets into God's description of love, it tells us some problems that we as human beings go after. 1 Corinthians 12 verse 13 says, if I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. It says you can be the most eloquent person around. I mean, you may be so good with your words. You can just craft out what you're writing or what you're saying, and it's so impressive, and people look at you and they go, wow. Maybe you're the best salesperson around. You could sell anybody anything, and you take great pride in how much you can get done. You can manipulate people with your words. You can do so much. And you go, I can win any argument I ever set out to fight and argue with. It says you can be the greatest singer ever, but if there isn't love in the middle of all that, it says it's worthless. It means nothing. In fact, it's quite annoying. Verse 2, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains but have not love, I am nothing. So I can have this image of being the most spiritual person around. Boy, I can spit out the Bible verses. I've got so much knowledge. I know so much. And boy, I can just talk down anybody when it comes to Bible. I can argue the best. I can have all this knowledge. I can have all these degrees behind my name, all kinds of intellectual pedigrees. I say, I'm more smart than you. I have it all. I can accomplish all this stuff. But he says, if it isn't centered on love for God, then it means nothing. Verse 3. Says, if I give all I possess to the poor, surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. You can be the most generous person ever. You can buy the best of gifts, but you can impress people and they want to hang around you because the money just flows out of you. They like being around you. And we can even use this, surrender my body. It means you can become a martyr. You can stand for the greatest causes. Boy, you can look like the best person right now. There's so many issues to stand up on. And boy, you can stand up and can be that leader. You can get so much attention. Wow, look what he's saying. Look what she's saying. They're really standing for a cause. But he's saying, if you're not doing that with love, it means nothing. So the negative on these is that you're building your personal image. You want to impress people with your abilities, with what you've accomplished. Now, there's nothing wrong with using all that God's given you, the very best that you can, and pursuing excellence in your life. But when you do it for personal image and not for God, and the love of God is not in your life, it is empty. Pharisees had a real problem with this. They were the religious leaders of the day. The Pharisees were all about their own kingdoms and their own image. There was very little about God. And this passage can very much fit church people. That we get all of our image and how we're spiritual leaders and how we're getting ahead. Preachers can do it, ministry team leaders can do it, life group leaders can do it, that we want to be the most important. Boy, we give, we serve, we're here every day. But where is your heart? Is it all about yourself or is it about God? 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7 has very strong words. It says, the Lord does not look at the things that people look at. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at what? Looks at the heart. Well, you may be impressive. You may have all those possessions. You may have this image. You may have so much pride oozing out of you, but God says, I can see past all of that. And what is your heart? What is underneath it all? We have the image. Well, we can build up our strength. We can work on our looks. We can have all those clothes that makes us look just right. We can do all those things, but guess what? Those looks are going to fade. Your strength is going to fade. Those clothes are going to be out of style. It's not going to last, but where's your heart? And we all do this. A while back, I got pulled over. The officer came up. He told me that I was speeding. Of course, he was wrong. I wasn't really speeding. I was just going a little fast, you know. And he asked for my driver's license and my insurance card, so I give it to him, and he was very pleasant. I gave it to him, and actually, I had this thought. I thought, I want to tell him I'm a pastor. Because if I tell him I'm a pastor, that implies I'm doing something really noble, you know, life-saving. I was just going to Home Depot, but I wouldn't have to tell him that part. But, you know, what do? We want to have this image that I'm a really good person, so you should treat me extra special more than anybody else. And you do the same thing. And by the way, I got the ticket anyway. It was fine. But, you know, but we have those times in life where we just think, who I am, my image, my role, we just want to edge. We want to get ahead of everybody else. And it's not how God laid it out. My personal image is not it. In fact, in the book of Genesis, the very beginning of the Bible, when God created man and woman, he said this in Genesis 1. He said, then God said, let us make mankind in whose image? Our image. In our likeness. As a follower of Jesus, we should reflect the beauty of God. We should be reflecting the love of God in his image. When people look at your life, if they've known you for very long, they should know you're a follower of Jesus because you're talking about Jesus, because of the lifestyle, the way that you live. When they look at your life, they shouldn't see just Joe's image or Mary's image. They should see Jesus' image in your life because you're following after him. You're honoring him with your life. So all the possessions, when life is over, it's done. It goes back in the box. This body that you've worked so hard on, your image, when it's all done, it goes back in the box. So we have all this stuff, which we're so proud of everything. You know, all your stuff, possessions, Jesus says it's going to go to somebody else. And all your looks, all your image, it's going to go in this big box that's going to go in the ground. So everything we've worked for, what's happened to it? It's just done. Game's over. We spend so much like that rich fool, accumulating and getting and moving ahead, but it comes down to what is the most important in life. Our greatest possession is to have faith in God, to know God, to have a relationship with Him, to walk with Him so you don't have to worry about what's going to happen. If I die tonight, what's going to happen? You should have that relationship with Him that you know the grace of God. Our cars break down, our houses need remodel, the clothes wear out, your image is going to change, you're going to get older, it's all going to fall apart, it's going to be done, someone else is going to be brighter, smarter, better. But our faith in God means you're going to be prepared for life. Perhaps you were taught a prayer when you were little that said, "Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." It's kind of a depressing prayer to teach your little kid, isn't it? Right before you go to sleep? You think that's bad? Listen to the second verse. I don't know if your mom taught you the second verse. Second verse says, "Our days begin with trouble here. My life is but a span, and cruel death is always near. So frail a thing is man." Good night. Sweet dreams. You guys think, why would a parent do that to their child? Well, in some ways, it's saying, hey, remember everything in life? It comes down to this life is temporary. And when it's all done, where are you at with God? Do you have a relationship with God, or you just have all these possessions? You just have all this image. It's just going to go back in the box and it's done and over with. And what are you going to do at the end of life? Jesus tells a story to remind us just what's important. He says this in Matthew 16:26. Would you read this verse aloud with me? "What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul?" Come down to your soul, your being, your heart, who God has created you to be, your personality, everything about you, what's most important in your life. Is that in relationship with God? Or is it all about the world? And it's sad when people will literally trade their soul for possessions and image. It's even sadder is when a believer does that. Follow Jesus. I want Jesus in my life, but I love all the stuff, possessions. I love my image, truthfully, more than God. It makes a difference in how we live. So what is true success in life? It's to know God, and your soul belongs to Him in relationship with Him. God, we're very thankful for your love for us, your grace for us. When we read these verses, your words that you give in front of us, God, every one of us need to repent in some ways. Because we like this stuff. We desire the things around us. And the evil one has a way of just kind of altering things a little bit so our image becomes more important than your image in our life. So, Father, I pray that you'd bring a conviction over us, that we would understand when we get our priorities out of place, that you create a hunger and a desire that we would want to know you more. Father, I pray that each person listening to this online, each person in this room, that in the midst of all the chaos of this world, that we would truly reflect your image and your attitude and our goals and our lifestyle and our words. I pray that our hearts will look like Jesus. I pray the words that we say, the anger and how we use it, and Father, our goals and desires in life, the greed will be replaced by a hunger to know you. So would you speak to us now? In Jesus I pray, amen.